Hey guys, what's up? This is Shift Break with Alex and Nick. Hope everybody's doing fine. We're at the end of Chinese Grand Prix. Hope everybody enjoyed it. There's so much to talk about it. Alex, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Mixed feelings on this race, to be honest. Some people felt excited watching the Ferraris duke it out, but I think there's a lot more we need to discuss about this.
So let's dive into it directly. Let me put up my opinion out there. So much of action at the start of the Grand Prix. Before the start of the Grand Prix, we already had McLaren's out of it. We had Albon out of it. And at the start, the Red Bull's not firing, Ferrari firing, and Mercedes lacking at the start. So this is becoming a routine structure now. And because of that, I think a lot of people have mixed feelings. But ultimately, a very worthy winner who dominated the race.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations to Kimi Antonelli, second youngest winner. He was very emotional, so I was really happy for him personally. He deserved it, so we give all the props to him. Russell being second, and then the Ferraris being third and fourth is kind of what we anticipated, just based off the sprint, based off the Melbourne GP. So I don't think there's any shock there. We do have to talk about how they've separated themselves from the rest of the teams. Like, there seemed to be nobody's catching, even Ferrari. And Ferrari, Charles and Hamilton, back and forth between themselves, but they were almost 10 seconds behind Antonelli while they're at it. Like, they're not close to Mercedes, especially on the straights.
So just to put the timing table outside there, Kimi Antonelli won. Second was Russell, who was 5.5 seconds behind him. Then it was Hamilton, which was 25 seconds behind. Yes, 25 seconds behind. Leclerc was 28. Berman, which very incredible performance from Berman, which was at fifth. Imagine this, almost it was 1 minute, 57 seconds. I mean, just look at the
That's
scores
crazy.
and look at the timings. It is very crazy. And my question is, okay, Kimi has won it. Bravo to him to be on the list with Max and then Kimi and Vettel. Incredible job, dude. Toto saw potential in him. Bravo to Toto for actually making this huge decision of jumping him straight from F4 to direct F1. So in this situation, I want to say congratulations. Your prodigy has come through. But it's a Mercedes thing now. Either they dominate the season where nobody can catch, or they lack really bad. And now I can see in two races, I think the season is almost over, dude.
I mean, it's been a Mercedes 1 and 2 so far. And I think it's going to continue unless there's going to be some massive changes by other teams or FIA regulations. We'll see now that we're having basically a whole month off, what they will do behind the scenes. Well, yeah, Max, after the race, was criticizing, if we enjoyed watching the Chinese Grand Prix, that, it's not real racing and such like that. Toto fired back at him saying, he's biased because they didn't do well. It's easy for Toto to be happy and saying when they've got by far the best car. Like, I don't think it's even a competition. Like, we might not even bother watching or attempting. We can just hand them the title now if it's going to continue like this. So, but yeah, Max has been consistent on his viewpoint ever since testing that this is just nowhere near the level. And I think he's very frustrated. And I do think some of his ambition and drive is no longer there. Like, he doesn't seem too bothered anymore. He's just kind of checked out, which is sad, dude. Like, I was hoping Max would stay, in the fight with the Ferraris and the Mercedes cars, but he couldn't even catch Behrman. Like, when he was sixth place, Behrman was, like a few seconds ahead of him, and he did not make up that ground. Which, by the way, I have to say, kudos to Gasly and Behrman, and the Alpine and Haas getting pretty high up their points for their teams.
Yemen finished fifth, incredible for him, and Gasly finished sixth. Lawson finished seventh. Hajar did eighth, and Carlos Sainz, out of all the struggles and everything, had his Williams at ninth, and Colapinto has finally come back into points at 10. So these were the top tens on Chinese Grand Prix on Sunday. These were the results, and the people who checked out, who had DNF, there were one, two, three, four did not starts, which was Norris, Piastri, Bortoleto, and Albon. All of them have registered that they could not get their engine started. There was some issue with the engine itself. And then the people who did not finish were Max, Alonso, and Stroll. I get the point with Aston Martin. They did not finish because we already know that they have some severe vibrations which might result in severe nerve problems. So that I get. But McLaren was a huge shock that they just did not start. Piastri did a wonderful qualification, I feel, even though they were in the midfield, but they were on top of the midfield. They were better than Red Bull.
Yeah, for the first two races, Piastri is just watching with the audience in the stands. I mean, that's horrible for him because he was doing really good last year, and we were hoping that this year with the McLaren car, if it was hopefully going to be as competitive, which is not, that he would be still in the top pack. But no, I think they're going to be in the midfield battle. I think it's just 1 and 2 between Mercedes and Ferrari, and the rest is just fighting amongst them.
That's not scaring me. I understand teams being in the midfield. Like, for example, even say Red Bull will fight in midfield, McLaren will fight in the midfield. With now, I see that Alpines are doing well. Maybe that's what the fight would be in the midfield. That is okay for me. But the biggest problem for me is the difference. That's what I just try to point it out.
Yep.
The results was if they are splitting from the top two teams, you have almost 1 minute. Like, never heard about it. 57 seconds. That was where Beman has got scored his points at fifth. If I look into sprint, the sprint was also similar. Where if I just point out, and I'll bring it out there on the screen, it was almost similar. With after Kimi Antonelli, it was 6 point, where Oscar was on six, Liam Lawson was 10.9. So that is like, I don't know what to say because it looks like everybody is so far behind the top
Yeah.
one and two, let's say. That is scaring me.
So, two ways to look at it. Either we can say that Mercedes is just so much faster, or that the other ones are just too slow.
If I'm not mistaken, we had this discussion offline about last year's Chinese Grand Prix and this year's Grand Prix. You were saying something, it was almost 2 seconds slower this year?
Yeah, so if we look at the qualifying table, when Norris qualified P1, his lap time was 1 minute 30 seconds point like 6.8, and Antonelli's P1 was 1 minute 32 seconds, so we're almost 2 seconds slower than last year. So, I mean, which isn't a shock. We kind of knew it already in testing that the cars are going to be slower. It's just battery management.
So let's jump into it, that conversation itself, which is driving the entire F1 community crazy. But this is my opinion about it. This is a continuous procedure where F1 introduces new rules and things take a lot of time. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in 3-day testing or one season testing. It takes a huge amount of time for any team or any driver to get acclimatized to this new, a huge regulation change. If we have to look into something like this, which had happened a long time back, it was 2011 when DRS was introduced. So at that time, DRS was first introduced, and if I was not mistaken, Mercedes had brought some kind of similar technology into their car, which gave them good straight line speeds. But then on, the FIA decided that they will introduce this with all the cars and make it uniform. So that was the biggest change from where we see until this year. And last year was the last year of these hybrid eras and everything. So from the start, where there was similar kind of discrepancy between the top Mercedes drivers and the next drivers, where around 4 to 5 seconds difference were there. But then the qualifying paces of the last race in 2025, if you have seen, almost the top 10 was separating from not more than 1 second. So, I
Correct.
mean, by the end of the regulation, everybody had discovered a way to come as close to the top leaders. So it was just coming to a driver's instincts. I know it took so much time, so it will just turn out to be like Mercedes dominance, like they had from 2011 or something, which they won almost 8 championships, I guess, if I'm not mistaken. So all these things, and just give us a little bit of more time. I understand the concept that it might be fake. It is, not might be, it is fake racing where a driver has to pull back on straights of trying to harvest energy and not be as fast. I get the point. It is not completely driver's instincts and all that, but this all boils down to how which team will accumulate and which team will understand this faster and go ahead with it.
Yeah, I think this topic, people are going too extreme. I think there's a more balanced viewpoint on this. For sure, whenever there's a regulation change in history FIA, there are some who adapt faster and benefit more than others. And we can clearly see that Mercedes and then Ferrari are the best ones at handling so far. The other ones are stuck in Stone Age. I think the argument that, oh, this year it's all about battery management, you're not, allowing the drivers to show their capabilities. It's all about now just the car. I don't agree with that narrative because since when has it just been about the driver? Even like last year. If it was about the driver last year, I'm sorry, like not to disrespect, but Lando would not be champion. Well, it's the same thing when Mercedes dominated. It's always been about the car, at least for a decade. Now, because it's a rule change, it's the battery, the cars aren't going fast, people are, being unhappy, and some criticism is valid, but I think some people are going overboard as well. But speaking on that, also, I think they will make some adjustments because 2025 we had what 80-20 ratio of engine to battery with only like 120 kilowatt, and with the MGOH now it's 50-50. I would be shocked if FIA looks into changing the regulation to make it like 70-30. And we'll see. There's a whole month ahead. There's going to be a lot of clamor, a lot of talk. They might have to make a decision because the reactions they're getting, the fact that they're having to censor people, the fact that they're hiding sometimes. I don't know if you noticed this, but like on official streams and stuff broadcast by the F1, they sometimes selectively hide like the speed because they know it's much slower and they don't want people to like highlight it. So they are very paranoid about the talk that people are having around this for sure. So we'll just have to wait and see. This will, one, give the other teams a chance to improve their car, kind of see if they can get more speed, a second or two faster than what they have been doing, and two, if FIA makes a little adjustment to allow it to be a bit more competitive. Sure, it's fun to see like the cars go back and forth, like every other corner to overtake, but at the end of the day, we just have to sit and wait. Like we can't do much about it. I'm frustrated watching it at times. I think everybody's frustrated, but this has been the case for many years. It's always been the car.
The frustration is valid. It's not invalid in any perspectives. But there are two perspectives over here. It's not only about the people who view on television, it's also about the people who come into the stadiums in large numbers. The people who turn out on the stadiums and all, they get really bored about just imagine a car roaming around in circles. That's basically what they see, right? The people who come on the stadiums. But when you see the cars are constantly competing with each other in this kind of regulation change, it we have to imagine it will be much more entertaining to see it live. So I think FIA has looked into it in that perspective that even the live audience, which we come, that's also a huge income which brings to them. So they also get entertained. See, and just to conclude that argument in a way, we need to understand even in 2011 to 2025, when DRS was there, a part of the system, which has now been overtaken by X mode and Z mode, the override mode. Before that, what was DRS? DRS, in short, was a system was giving around 10 to 20 km per hour speed to the driver who was in 1 second with the other person, which he was trailing with. So would you term that as fake racing? That is also a situation which FIA had introduced into a system for the drivers to not make it boring, because if in straight in 1 second, they get more power to overtake the person who is in front. So they had also introduced that. There were a lot of conversations at that time. Maybe there were not many podcasters at that time on YouTube to actually talk about
Yeah.
it more openly, but the voice now is much more louder, and I'm not discrediting it. It is true. It is absolutely true. But I think FIA also has to come on a common ground, and people who are really, really fuming about it also need to understand that in a larger perspective for the audience who are seeing it live and all, it is making it more fun for them. So on that note, I think we put that topic on bed and let's not talk about it anymore. If there is more development, then yeah. So I have a question for you now. I know it is too early, but should Ferrari actually prioritize one driver and see to it that they don't have this internal fight between each other on the street? I know they were racing very fair. There is a lot of mutual respect. There was no much of wheel banging, but maybe one or two instances, but there was a lot of space. But don't you think the internal fight between them is resulting in a clear walkaway for Mercedes right now in this past two race? Because let me present the situation. In both the races and even in sprint, I know maybe Mercedes would have still won it, but you need to give a chance. Split the strategies between two drivers and see if you can make one driver at least win it or charge him towards win. I think that is what Ferrari is lacking. I know both of them are number one drivers. With Carlos Sainz, yes, there was a situation where they could tell him that he's number two, and they have not hired any rookie. But race specifically, maybe in a situation where somebody has qualified better than the other, who has more pace on that day, maybe they should prioritize this, and that's my uh, huge grievance with how Ferrari are dealing with this.
I think in isolation, watching them go head to head, I am more than happy with.
It is
And I
fun. It is
think
fun.
it is fun. And I think that's the most entertainment people got out of this race, was to see them going head to head. If we go all the way back to, the days of Senna and Prost and the McLarens, like fighting head to head, we have rarely seen teams saying, okay, whichever driver is best on the grid, we'll take it. Let them race. Now, on a like a point scale competition wise, it's not benefiting Ferrari, because while they are very busy getting head to head, as you could see, like the gap between the Mercedes ahead of him, Antonelli, he got scot free. Like they weren't ever going to catch up to him. So on that sense, Ferrari should maybe think about different strategies, but it's tough. Neither of them, I think, were unhappy. I think both of them were pretty positive. It's a rarity seeing both Ferrari drivers being a bit positive after a race. Even Leclerc
No,
was admitting that he was faster than me on the day, and it's fine. Like it's a rarity. You
No, the
know.
reason they were very happy about it is the Ferrari's performance in last few years has been dismal. It has been very bad. And for that reason, right now, they're saying if we are second and third or third and fourth, it's like a huge boon for them, and all the appreciation needs to go to the unit who has prepared the car. That is how they're looking into it. But that is not Ferrari's legacy to come third and fourth. We need to
No.
recalibrate all this situation. You have always been the desired team winner for, I don't know, millions of people.
Yeah, you could argue also today that had they made a strategy, they could have gotten at least second place, because if they decided that either Leclerc or Hamilton would be the number two, then they would have changed the strategy to make one of them fight more with Russell to slow him down and allow like whoever was number one to get a bit more clean space to maybe even try to catch Antonelli. You could make that argument, but at the end of the day, I have no issue with it.
So I guess they were happy, so everybody is happy. So next I want to bring to the notice is, as we rightly pointed out just few minutes back, FIA has taken a very drastic decision because there is a lot of chaos which is happening in Gulf areas, and now they are not going to hold the next two Grand Prix, which were scheduled as Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. That results in almost 30 days a month, which will have no Formula One. Are you going to survive, Alex, without it, first of all?
We will have to, but I'm pretty sure there will be plenty of things to talk about during that time. I think there will be a lot of murmurs, a lot of discussions. So we'll be, of course, paying attention. But I think they made the right decision, like prioritizing everybody's safety.
Yeah.
Of course, for them, it's a huge loss because those are two massive races for them financially and, as an advertiser for F1. But they made absolutely the correct decision.
Yeah, I mean, on a serious note, yes, it's a right decision, and my prayers and all the wishes go to those people who are in distress, and hope this situation resolves as fast as possible. Let there be peace, and I hope this situation resolves as fast as possible, not just for the F1's sake. This is like the most minimalistic thing which we can talk about, but the bigger problems get solved as fast as possible, and cooler heads prevail. So that will have around 30 days time for F1 and also for the teams. Now, let's imagine there are so much of problems which everybody is having in driving in their cars and driving still. Yes, the great Max Verstappen also is having problems and to figure out the car. And I think everybody needs this little bit of more time to rework on their cars or driving styles or the vibrations of the steerings or whatever is happening. So I think this might be a blessing in disguise for a lot of teams who are DNFing and did not start.
I hope that this will make the next race more unpredictable. I'm hoping the other cars get at least 1 or 2 seconds extra pace, that they're at least closer,
Last champion, Lando Norris, is not having his stability with the car. Oscar has hardly raced any race. So we are in a situation where we're trying to understand where are the driver skills going to come in cooperation and challenge George Russell or right now Kimi Antonelli. By the way, did you even hear when his name was called out on the podium? And the winner is Kimi Raikkonen itself. And like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And he's questioning about Kimi Raikkonen.
My goodness. I wonder if they will have betting odds on when Piastri will actually start a race.
Yeah, besides that, but there was a little bit of fun in this race. There were a lot of DNFs. Some of the favorites or majority of the people did not participate in the race. And I hope this 30 days or a month or so, which is going to go in void, helps the FIA to also brings a little bit of some kind of changes, which, makes people talking about Mario Karts little less and focusing on driving more. And I hope all the teams put their effort on just developing little bit more where they can extract something and give her more fun with more number of teams. That's my hope and prayer going into this break. Alex, any final words?
Congratulations, Kimi. What a great way to win at the age that he is in. I think behind the scenes, Russell might be a little like we kind of know how he is. So once you got that little taste in your mouth of being number one on the podium with the champagne, maybe Antonelli wants to keep it going. So I'm hoping it creates drama. That's what I want to see with Mercedes. I don't want it to just be like Russell, you just take over and Kimi just sits back. I want to see them both given equal opportunity. I think that would at least add to the excitement.
That's it, guys. Hope everybody's safe and keep yourself safe and surrounding. And that's it. This is Shift Break with Alex and Nick.